It is an open secret now that in the next few months, we may go through the difficulties we faced in 2015. And unfortunately, it is coming at a time where expenditures have increased. And the only solution is to increase revenues and to reduce dependence on oil. The price of oil within one day crashed from over $50 to $30. And it appears from all indication it may even crash more.
The tax payment culture in Nigeria is a huge challenge. Nigeria is #1 economy on the continent of Africa, but when it comes to payment of taxation or paying, the culture of paying taxes, the reverse becomes the case.
Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. I am Chiamaka Ohawochi. Today on Tax Matters, we are going to, as usual, take you on a voyage into the world of taxation in Nigeria. Recall that just recently, on the 4th of February 2020, Mr. Muhammad Nami, who was only a few weeks in office as Executive Chairman FRS, mounted the world stage in his capacity as Chairman of the African Tax Administration Forum, ATAF. It was on the occasion of the 9th Country Correspondents Conference and first meeting of experts on taxation of the informal sector. In his capacity as chairman of the continental body, Mr. Nami played host to fellow tax czars from across the African continent. That story came to you a few episodes ago. Just last week, Mr. Nami again mounted the world stage, this time to welcome participants on a seminar on human capital management in tax administration, hosted by Nigeria on behalf of the West African Tax Administration Forum, WATAF. The chairman of the FRS is also the chairman of the Joint Tax Board of Nigeria, so maintaining cordial relationship with the state revenue authorities is top on his agenda. After all, the motto of the JTB is creating a tax-friendly environment. We are going to tell you the story of how eminent citizens from the home state of Mr. Nami, led by the executive governor of the state, came calling at Revenue House. Call it identifying with the homeboy. Plus, the story of the resumption of duty of some physically challenged persons at the FRS. But before all of these, a few hints on how to cope under the Finance Act. We have devoted quite a few episodes of Tax Matters to the Finance Act in recent time. You have heard from the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, and you have heard from many experts in the private sector. That was deliberate. We wanted private sector operators to share with our viewers what the Finance Act is all about, especially as we do know that private sector operators, tax consultants, auditors, professional associations, chambers of commerce and industry, we are very much involved in putting together the Finance Act. We want to make a shift today. We are yielding the floor to those who have been saddled with the responsibility of administering the Finance Act. Mr. Femi Oluwaneye is the Transition Lead Domestic Taxes Group at the FRS. Are there provisions in the Finance Act that are aimed at promoting the ease of doing business?
Okay, thank you, Amaka, for that. There's always a balancing. As much as government wants to take money, wants to finance its projects, we want to raise more taxes, we are also concerned about our image and about how well the government is facilitating people going into business in the first place. There's always the need to increase foreign direct investments, and there's what is called best practice internationally. Now, to your question, therefore, that same act it's not just about raising money all the way and raising money. A cardinal program of it is also to make for ease of doing business, to encourage people to be interested in Nigeria, and I'll go into some specific issues. There is this issue of minimum tax, which is about where you are not supposed to pay any tax at all. Pay, even if it has to be on your assets. There's some calculation that has to do with your net assets that goes into the what to be paid. And a lot of people have felt bad that it's like eating into the capital of companies. That has been removed now. Minimum tax is now based on turnover purely, and issues of assets has been removed from it. There's this issue of excess dividend tax before. Yes, excess dividend tax is still there. That is another form of minimum tax, but it is now so much amended that it is friendly. What I mean by that is that the excess dividend is now limited to the current year, to that year's dividend that is paid. But anything that has to come from reserves, which has generated, which probably have generated tax before, it will not form part of the calculation again. So what is excess dividend is now limited to what is only current as profit. Then a big one is what I call commencement rule. In the times past, I've always felt that the commencement rule makes for double taxation at the early years, that the same basis, the same period is taxed twice. The Finance Act has taken care of that you just start on preceding year basis straight. There is what is called provisional tax. Provisional tax is like pay something on account before your returns gets ready, just for government to be able to have something in hand. But a lot of people have felt that was not necessary. That has been repealed, it has been deleted. And a number of other provisions that makes it actually very appealing, very friendly and attractive for whoever wants to go into business in Nigeria.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams (FEET) on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate (TCC). Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Thank you for staying with us. From Tuesday the 10th to Thursday the 12th of March 2020, Nigeria played host to a 3-day seminar on human capital management in tax administration, organized by the West African Tax Administration Forum, WATAF. Mr. Babatunde Oladapo is the Executive Secretary of WATAF.
From publicly available information for all revenue bodies, the costs associated with staff, human resources are the single largest component of their total costs, sometimes even exceeding 80% of a revenue body's total operating costs.
Chief host Mr. Muhammad Nami, Executive Chairman FRS, Chairman Joint Tax Board and Chairman ATAF was on hand to welcome participants.
I'm particularly delighted that our own Federal Inland Revenue has been chosen to host this special training at this crucial time of our renewed determination to focus more on staff development in order to promote productivity.
Mr. Nami linked a well-trained workforce to the success of the Revenue Authority.
Capacity building for our workforce will be only the basis we have to bring digital economy to taxation, to block illicit flow of cash assets from Africa, block leakages in the taxable revenue, provide capacity building for audit or transfer pricing, through human capital development. We are able to carry out a strategy to tackle aggressive tax planning by taxpayers. We are able to bring informal sector to TaxNet. It is through this type of process that we build capacity of our human resource to be able to improve our tax revenue collection. It is through capacity building that we can improve the current tax ratio of sub-Saharan Africa from 70%.
Tax Matters sought to know from the WATAF chairman and secretary what the seminar was meant to achieve.
HR is the principal thing in any organization. No matter the level of technological advancement, you can't take away the human component of it. So they have a strong role to play in modeling and then remodeling where necessary, and also getting closer to the heads of tax administration. And at the beginning of the training, that was part of the charge I gave to the heads of tax administration. Provide support for these experts to be able to utilize the resources you have. We've seen situations where you have people with qualifications, with the expertise, but they are not being allowed to work because they feel, what are they bringing on board? So the collaboration will bring about a refocus in terms of support, in terms of assistance, and in terms of recognizing the pivotal role these HR managers can play in tax administrations.
When economies of the world are discussed, people talk about resource costs. Those countries like Nigeria with oil, some countries with natural resources, mineral resources, they relax, they sit back, they don't talk about tax. But things are changing. What role is tax revenue playing in the economy of Togo?
With Togo, our own oil is taxed, so that's why we ensure that we do everything to make sure that we collect enough revenues to be able to continue to run our budget in the country.
What percentage is tax revenue playing in that budget?
Around 80%. Around 80%.
Then the last one, just this year, February 1st, our VAT moved from 5% to 7.5%. What is the rate of VAT, value tax in Togo?
18, because
Mrs. Deconti T. Kingstaki is the Deputy Commissioner General of the Liberian Revenue Authority.
Why do we have to talk about HR in tax administration?
HR in tax administration is a very cardinal subject. It's because human resource is the single most important asset any revenue authority on the African continent has. And if we are supposed to mobilize domestic resources effectively, it means that our human capital management has to be high on our agenda. And that's why we believe that it is important for all of us on this in WATAF to meet and exchange our ideas to see how we can improve our human resource capital management.
There's something that we don't fail to ask people when they come from other jurisdictions. What role is tax revenue playing in the Liberian economy?
Oh, tax revenue is very significant in achieving the developmental goals of the government. In fact, we have developed for ourselves a domestic resource mobilization strategy that is aimed at growing our revenue such that we can be sure that we will be able to drive our development projects through our own internally generated revenue. And so the government effort is now galvanized towards achieving that. And we believe that where we've placed domestic resource mobilization is at a point where it cannot be under-emphasized the importance of it in our daily and operational activities within Liberia. And so it is very high on the agenda. In fact, our revenue for the government, we have probably about 80% coming from domestic resource mobilization. Yeah.
From the world stage to the homestead, on the same day of the formal opening of the WATAF seminar, His Excellency Governor Abubakar Sani Bello, Executive Governor of Niger State, led a delegation of dignitaries from Niger State on a visit to Mr. Muhammad Name at Revenue House, Abuja, in a show of solidarity with a homeboy who has made good.
We're here for two reasons. One, Nigerite to show our support. Congratulate you on your appointment as the chairman of FIRS. Two, as the chairman of FIRS, to also seek your support so that how we can synergize and see how we can improve on our revenues. We have to generate enough internal revenue to be able to handle business activities. So, congratulating you, we came with our own prayers, seek your support, intervention, assistance, technically, financially, morally, or whatever you can do to guide us and assist us on how we're able to improve on our revenues so that we're able to take care of government activities.
In his response, Mr. Nami did not fail to use the occasion to talk about the onerous responsibility placed on him and his colleagues in generating revenue for Nigeria.
The tax payment culture in Nigeria is a huge challenge. Nigeria is #1 economy on the continent of Africa, but when it comes to payment of taxation or paying, the culture of paying taxes, the reverse becomes the case. What I mean by this is that our tax ratio to gross domestic product as at 2018 was just about 6.3%. When you compare it to that of South Africa, which is the second largest economy, South Africa has as high as 27%. And when you look at it and compare it also to the average obtainable in Africa, Nigeria has 6.3. The average obtainable in Africa is 17%. So this fall in oil price is a huge problem that we have to holistically look at, provide solution, and tell ourselves the truth. Our overhead cannot continue to grow. For some of you that have ministry, department, and agencies under you, you cannot be generating this money, spend it, and remit operating surplus going forward. The ideal thing to do is for you to generate, remit, submit your budget to either federal government or to your state government, and budget provisions are made by you, deliberated upon by the federal or state house of assemblies, and the amount due to each ministry, department, and agencies are released to them as against the current practice where operating surpluses are calculated based on the template, dictation, and the plans by management of such ministry, department, and agencies. That is what we do here, because if we are able to generate the 8.5 trillion naira, it's remitted directly to the TACA. So government approved 4% cost of collection on the non-oil taxes only. So if that is replicated in other agencies of federal government, I think it will help you in addressing some of the issues.
Mr. Nami had specific words of advice for the states.
Another thing we should do quickly is how to bring the informal sector to taxation. This is necessary because everybody that comes here work for one ministry, department, agency, for instance. And at the end of each month, salaries are paid to you. And those salaries don't come to you gross, they come net of taxes. these taxes you paid are used for provision of critical infrastructure, particular road infrastructure. While the man next to your door has about 100 trucks which ply these roads, but unfortunately, this man is not in the tax net. So they use your tax money to construct these roads, but the owner of the trucks that ply goods from Lagos to Maiduguri is not paying taxes. It's an injustice that you should go home and think of how to address. We must be able to deploy technology too. The era of somebody going to Agay market, Lapai market, with a receipt to collect taxes should be phased out. Because virtually every home today, everybody has an ATM card for purpose of doing business. So I think if those revenues are generated electronically, it will go a long way in helping us.
In his chat with pressmen at the end of the visit, Governor Bello further enunciated his vision for Niger State.
Well, my strategy for Niger State is simple. We got a hint that these issues will continue to come since 2015. And since then, we've tried to put in place necessary investments to diversify so that we can reduce or limit dependence on federal allocations. So I believe most states are also looking at other sectors, especially those ones in the North Central, where agriculture is our mainstay. Any meaningful investment will take time. It has a gestation period. And we have to also work on the system. We just like the chairman said, we operate a system where people are not used to paying. Mostly a system based on subsidies. Subsidies on fuel, subsidies on people don't pay tax. In the past it worked because we had a lot of revenues from oil. Our infrastructure then was still intact and our population was much less than this. But in recent times we have seen that our population is growing and most of our infrastructure are stressed. So the need to overhaul or rebuild or reconstruct most of our infrastructures have become necessary. And to do that, you require a lot of resources. So what is happening at the moment is our expenditure is increasing because the number of workers is increasing. At the same time, with the new minimum wage being implemented, so a lot of things for some time, for now, in the next few weeks or months, it will be extremely difficult to run the affairs. But like I said, the best thing is to diversify, to get the cooperation of the general public, to win the confidence of the public, because I also believe some people are reluctant to pay taxes because they feel when they pay taxes, someone just spends the money on his own.
The executive chairman FRS also spoke to the press.
Exactly in what ways are you ready to help the states? Niger State has come calling, other states will come calling. In what ways exactly are you ready to help the state?
I've already encouraged them to key into the concept of CIFMIS that we are trying to deploy through the Joint Tax Board platform. That CIFMIS is going to work like the GIFMIS. At that point, the moment a transaction happens, the moment he or the local government authorities pay contractors, it will not scale through until the tax element accompanies it. So by the time we do that, he is going to be able to generate more money. Other states that have their citizens based in Niger State will generate more money for purpose of providing key infrastructure for their citizens.
Still talking about visits, a group of newly recruited staff of the FRS was personally received by the executive chairman at Revenue House Abuja on Tuesday the 10th of March 2020.
To assure you that you will only be posted to where you want. So we are going to send you near your people so that at least you be close to your family.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
The newly recruited men and women are physically challenged.
Congrats.
Here is wishing the newly recruited staff the best in their service to the nation. And to you, our viewers, keep a date with us next week for another educative episode of Tax Matters. Thank you for watching.